So muddiness comes from two areas in particular. The low end that we're discussing here. And now that we've clarified and cleaned up the relationship between the kick drum, the bass drum, a live bass and a sub bass, and we've created some nice consistent low end in there, we've got to think about, well, what could be getting in the way? Now, I have a lot of guitars here. And these heavy ones here are pretty massive. But what we did here, as you can see, there's a high pass. It's actually at about 80. Now, what I like to do is I like to find the fundamental, something that sounds really thick at the bottom of those guitars, and boost it and then cut in the same area. Meaning, I can actually get more low fatness out of my guitars if I take more low end off, but increase it where it feels and sounds the best. So let's see if we can find where the low end really feels good on these guitars. So I narrowed the Q, we're at about 130, 135 hertz, and that boost is pretty dramatic. And it probably doesn't need to be that much, but let's have a listen again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my high pass and move it closer to the boost. So now I'm high passing much closer to that. I'm high passing at 100 hertz. That's bypass. That's all the EQ off now. And it's like, well, wait there. Shouldn't it sound like there's more low end, Warren, because you just cut all that low end? No, it doesn't sound like there's more low end. It sounds fatter, like there's more low end because I found the fundamental of what makes that guitar sound really, really thick and boosted it and then cut everything below, which is unwanted and will get in the way of the bass and the kick, destroying the clarity and adding, yes, you guessed it, muddiness. So less low end equals more a low end if you boost the low end that actually matters. Okay, so I'm going to take that and actually, look at that. So now my slope is really drastic. Take a bit of that boost down so it's not quite so drastic. I love it. So, but we've cleaned it up, like at 100 hertz, everything is gone. And now we're at like 140. So let's say that feels like if we just drop in the sub. Bass guitar. Everything together. Smart high passing is really going to help the low end be bigger because you're getting rid of stuff that's unwanted and creating mud, and you're finding fundamentals in your guitar sounds and boosting them, or your synths or whatever it might be, and just getting it so it feels like it's all gluing together and just sounds like, yeah, I've got definition down there. So you can see there it's a judicious use of high passing and boosting low end. We did it with the sub, we did it with the bass guitar, and now we're doing it with the guitar. And that is creating so much more bottom end. And we also went into the kick drum and boosted more of the fundamental of the kick and cut that area where the bass needed some room. And it gives us a bit of everything we need. So the fourth thing we need to talk about, the second area of buildup that causes muddiness, is of course the low mids. Now, I find the first thing I do always is go to my drum kit and start looking there. Now, if we go to my overheads here, you'll see I cut everything, not dramatically, but everything about 160 and below. I've also got a lo-fi on there, so I'm distorting it. Let's have a listen. In and out of bypass, you can see it's high passing quite a lot, but I could get in there at about 350 here and pull that out as well. See there? Without the EQ in, stodgy. Put the EQ in. It's actually nice. There's more snap on the snare in the overheads, and the cymbals don't sound affected at all. They're just breathing, the hi-hat, everything's great. I'm actually going to cut even more low mid. Now, it's typical with things like low mids, etc., and low end to be removed from overheads. It doesn't have to be massively removed, but definitely EQ'd away. And also reverbs. So if I go to my toms, for instance, have a listen. Now, there's an EQ on the tom sub itself. Actually, it could do with more. There's like a little bit of a cut here, but I can make that a little higher at about 350. And I could dip that quite dramatically. So this is a blend of the live ones with the sample. But, you know, I could add a bit of low boost on that. We could go to the R bass, for instance, and we could go up to about 100. Bypass it. Great. Now, I'm going to take the tom sub itself and send it to the reverb. And what we're going to do is we're going to put an EQ before that reverb. It's kind of high and low pass. So this will get rid of that excessive low muddiness. It's another thing to do with your reverbs, is to high pass them above the low mids, especially the low end. The low end on a kick drum, I can go back and check it. I do not want that going into my reverb, or I'm just going to have boom, all these ambience delays and reverbs with too much excessive low end will just create a ton of mud. So I'm going to go up to about, let's say 300-ish. I don't mind the high end so much. There's not much there. I don't even know if I have to. See, it's about 8K and it's gone. So we could do that maybe. So if we go to about 8K-ish. But see, here we are about 300, all gone. Toms still sound great going through that reverb, but there's not going to be any of that low mid and low build up. Throw in the whole drum kit. Great, super aggressive snare. We can do the same thing on our snare verb. We've got a little bit of compression going onto it, but we can go in and grab another EQ. Fantastic. Let's go to our kick bass, which we already worked on, and then have a look at our kick verb. It's already, let's go a little higher. So we'll go, there you go. Okay, whole thing together. Craziness. So now we've created a lot of clarity in our low mids and our low end. We've gone in there, we've taken out areas that we don't need it in, which is in the drums in particular. On the ambience, we've taken out the low mids. We don't want all that boost of just rumbling low mid and low end. Those are really all of the areas that we address to remove muddiness in a mix. And I think the important things to remember are virtual instruments and live instruments give you different sets of problems. Virtual instruments, by virtue of the way that they're recorded or created synthetically, are a lot more consistent. And that is a wonderful thing. It will make EQing and compressing very easy. You may not have to do as much compression. And if you're working in MIDI and there is uneven performances, you can go in there and even them up on your MIDI information and still keep that same response on every single hit. Now, with organically recorded stuff, with microphones, with players moving, with all kinds of issues that can come from that, you're going to have to get more creative. But that's the challenge of those two elements coming together. And it's a great one, but there is no one-size-fits-all approach. I believe strongly that you should make decisions based on what you hear and then use the tools in front of you to achieve that. And for me, listening to the song, I was thinking, well, I want my kick to be massive. I want my sub to be enormous, but I don't want it to just turn into like exploding out of nowhere. It has to be controlled just enough. And that, I believe, is what we achieved here on this chorus. Great, so if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I love being able to talk about this stuff. I know that the muddiness and the low end issues are something that consistently comes up in conversation. So please, if you have any tips, you have any ideas that you want to share with people, any of your experiences, please do below.